Back in 2014, when the original Dark Souls 2 came out, is when I got my first taste of Soulsborne PvP, which then naturally got me interested in the mechanic that I have grown to love, and in certain ways, it has kind of ruined my gaming experience with games as a whole. The mechanic that my channel for the most part revolves around, which is invasions. This is my comprehensive guide to Wolong Invasions, coming from a Soulsborne Invader veteran. I guess that's what you can call myself, since I don't just strictly stick to one Soulsborne game to invade. In this guide, I will be sharing my knowledge that I have accumulated since I've invaded over 25 plus hours since the game has came out about a little over a month ago. I'll be giving my thoughts and opinions about Wolong Invasions at the end of the video. Be warned, it's probably the unpopular opinion. That being said, the number one piece of advice I can give any player coming from the Soulsborne series is to stop playing Wolong like it's made by From Software. The quicker you do that, the better time you're going to have with the combat system. Second thing I want to touch on, when you invade, watch the spirit gauges. The big thing is with your spirit gauge is it's pretty much just like the posture gauge for Sekiro. Once your spirit gauge or any person's spirit gauge gets all the way full on the orange side, they then become winded, leaving them vulnerable for about a few seconds, which can also result into a riposte doing a ton of damage, by the way. Alright, on to number 3, choosing your wizardry spells. Your wizardry spells are pretty crucial when making a build. Alright, you are limited to 4, and it is crucial that you choose the right type of spells for synergy and whatnot. I'm going to use my spells that I've been using for the most part on my guy as an example. Alright, let's take a look at my spells that I was rocking on my first character through my first playthrough. So, the first spell that I want to touch on, which is actually a wood virtue spell that goes by the name of Unstoppable Force. And to summarize what this spell does, or how I pretty much use it, is I use it as my reset button for my spirit gauge. Because what this spell does is that it makes it to where if you have high spirit gauge in the orange, it will deplete down to 0 quickly, and if it's in the blue, the positive high spirit gauge, it will, or low spirit gauge, whichever one's low, whichever one's high, either way. Orange is bad, blue is good. So, it makes it to where the blue depletes slower. But I normally use it as just my reset button. Now, on to Venomous Discharge. This spell in particular I love, simply because every projectile or pretty much anything in the game can be parried, or deflected, I should say. So, that being said, Venomous Discharge throws multiple bogs on the ground, and what ends up happening is whenever people, even if they deflect the incoming toss, it still splatters on the ground, and if they're anywhere near it, they take a little bit of HP damage as well as build up from the poison accumulation. So, all in all, Venomous Discharge is amazing in terms of PvP. This is like one of the top spells in my opinion. And then the next one that synergizes extremely well with it, that you have to really utilize if you want to proc poison, that is Elemental Plague. And this pretty much increases the accumulation of all status effects for a set period of time, of course. And then lastly, we've got our AoE, and it's kind of like our area of denial as well, similar to Discharge in that regard, But more so, Mighty Shockwave, whenever I was using it in the beginning parts of the game, or whenever I was invading early on, was that I was using it more so as kind of like a turn and burn or an option to get multiple people off me at once. So that's what Mighty Shockwave was there for. Now, honestly, I have changed that up a bit on this particular setup. In fact, I have changed over to Thorny Grounds. That spell is awesome. It slows down your enemy, it does damage, and of course it just works well with Venomous Discharge. There's also another Earth Virtue spell that works extremely well with Venomous Discharge that I cannot wait to show you guys in the near future. But that being said, these are my spells that I was using on my first playthrough, and these were pretty much my thoughts and ideas whenever I was choosing my particular spells for doing PvP. That being said, let's jump back into the video. Fourth thing, no iframes on jump attacks. This isn't Elden Ring. Yes, as far as I know, there are no iframes on jump attacks whatsoever. I have tried to do it myself in the past, and I've also had many people that I've invaded try to treat Wolong as if it was Elden Ring. You could tell that they're strictly from Elden Ring because that's all they're doing is nothing but jump attacks, as if they were wearing the Raptor's chest piece and claw talisman. And honestly, from the looks of it, this is not how they want us to really use this combat system. They don't want really jump attacks to be implemented in it. So that's just my opinion and from what I've gathered. So that being said, no, there is not going to be people just jumping around like giant flying birds. On to the fifth one. You can't spam spells or special attacks. Yes, in Wolong, you cannot spam projectile hell like you would be allowed to in Elden Ring. Elden Ring, the consumption for spamming any kind of projectile is extremely low. However, over in Wolong, it's very clear that they're more focused on the melee combat than per se the projectile combat. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I prefer it that way. I don't mind some projectiles, but whenever that's all the combat is, it becomes very dull, and I don't know, the engagements are not the same, in my opinion. Number 6, the cooperators can use their spirits, but you can't. Yes, exactly what I just said. You will not be allowed to use your spirit as a red in these invasions. However, each cooperator that has been summoned can and will use their spirits against you, whether it be the buff kind or whether it be they summon their actual spirit animal or creature into existence and have them attack you that way. But I have almost been one shot by people doing this, so do keep in mind if people are running high spirit animal or whatever gauge, whatever to increase their damage output, do keep in mind that you will take a lot of damage whenever you run into somebody who has popped this. 8th is embedment. Embedment is the process in which you're able to change your special effects on your equipment, whether it be melee weapons or even armor pieces, to optimize your build or setup or loadout, whatever it is you want to call it, to its highest potential, and also to change up playstyles and pretty much add more variety for your preference as the player. Number 9, invasion loot. One thing that, in my opinion, that Team Ninja did right is allow invaders to get more than just currency from winning invasions. Instead, in Wolong, you actually get loot, whether it be accessory armor piece, or even a weapon. And honestly, in the early parts of the game, that was how I got my 4-star weapons early on, or even just my 4-star equipment just in general. So there are benefits to doing and completing invasions other than just getting currency to upgrade your character, which I personally love, and I've always thought that FromSoft should implement at least something to that degree in their invasion systems. However, with Team Ninja and how they have the Diablo style loot, it works perfectly with that system in particular. 10. Let's jump into lag and latency. So, yes, of course, just like any other online game, there is lag and latency involved whenever you play. Now, Wolong's invasions, whenever you run into somebody with bad connection, I'm not sure if it's either bad connection, net code, or even servers. Could be a server issue too. However, it's very clear whenever you run into something like that, because people are just skipping all over the place. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it be the host, everybody will pretty much be skipping in the world. And not just small little skips here and there. I mean, these are giant leaps, like giant instant transmissions that Goku performed type shit. So do keep that in mind. The lag latency can be kind of crazy and even hectic, and also comical at times on this game. 11. Watch the downed bodies. Yes, in Wolong's invasion system, it operates definitely different from Software's invasion system. From Software, if you kill off a Phantom or anybody, they just die instantly, and if it's the host, you win. Now, in Wolong, they have a system to where it's kind of like a second chance, kind of. Is if somebody goes down, they have a set time period, and it's even like kind of like a little meter on their HP bar that ticks down, and once it gets all the way to 0, they die. Now, within that time period of them being down, they can be picked back up, and even picked back up multiple times. So, watching down bodies is actually very crucial for an invader, especially since I've come to realize that hosts, or even just cooperators in general, will pretty much try to do vertical looping, is what I kind of call it. Is they will use the terrain to go up and around you, pretty much just circle all the way around you to get back to their friend to pick them up, because it only takes about 5 seconds just to pick them up. They also have a little bit of hyper armor frames from the looks of it from playing online, or maybe it might be even latency, but it does take a few hits to knock them out of their animation whenever they pick their friend up. So do keep in mind, watch for dead bodies, or downed bodies, sorry, not dead, downed. Number 12, blocking. So, blocking, not only does it reduce the physical and elemental damage that you receive, but it also reduces how much spirit damage you receive as well. Mind you, this is crucial simply because if your spirit gauge gets completely full on the orange side, your character then becomes winded, leaving you vulnerable. So, blocking is also amazing simply because you can go from a block animation into a dodge or deflect. So a lot of times in sweatier 1v1 scenarios, you will see two players pretty much square up against each other, and they'll be kind of doing like a little dance, I guess, with their weapons in their face, in a block stance, and all they're doing is pretty much trying to wait for the other person to attack, so that way they can then deflect, or if their timing isn't right, they then block it and receive reduced damage. Number 13, no Covenant host support. Only summons, whether they're summoned through password or from choosing recruitment. So There are quote-unquote blues in Wolong. However, they are online players that have been recruited by the host to fill their cooperative spots. So that's the reason why sometimes if you invade, you'll see blue phantoms, and other times you'll run into cooperators that look like the host and NPCs, and sometimes you really can't tell them apart. That's the whole reason why you're able to see blues. It's not because there's a covenant to support hosts or anything like that. It's just online cooperation, except for without password. 14. You choose who you invade. Yes, you heard me right. As a red, you choose who you get to invade. Now, there are a few issues I have with this. One being that I feel like there isn't a level range in which you're allowed to invade. I think you're able to invade whoever or however high or low. It's pretty much fair game as far as I know. So I could be at the end of the game and I could actually also invade a level 30 or around a level 30 and invade them where they just opened up the function to be invaded or to invade themselves. Now, I don't like to invade somebody who's that low level than me and give myself a crutch like that. However, I can see this being an issue like that, but at the same time, I can't fully sympathize with hosts simply because I don't know how quote-unquote nerfed the summon phantoms are whenever they get summoned into their world. So if it's like Elden Ring, where it doesn't really work for the most part, I'm not going to jump into specifics about that, but let's just say, just take my word for it, it doesn't work for the most part in terms of nerfing overlevel phantoms. If it works like Elden Ring, I have no sympathy whatsoever for underlevel hosts in being invaded by level 90s at that point. But if it's just a host with 2 NPCs, that I can't completely agree on, and me personally, I like to have challenge whenever I invade. So, yeah, that's just my opinion on who you're allowed to invade in Wolong. 15. This kind of plays off of what I said prior about the whole level range system that is not really implemented in Wolong's invasion systems. It's pretty much just a free-for-all. No weapon level matchmaking as far as I'm aware. Weapon upgrade level doesn't play a part in Wolong's invasion systems. So, that being said, I'm very sure that if there's not a restriction on level to be invaded, there's not going to be a quality or even weapon upgrade level matchmaking either. Last but not least, let's talk about 3v2s. Yes, Wolong has co-invasions implemented in their invasion system. And from my knowledge, there isn't like an item, say like the dried finger or taunter tongue, that you have to use to be invaded by 2 invaders. In fact, from my knowledge, I think the requirements for you to be invaded by 2 reds are if you as a host summon 1 actual player, and then after you summon that first player, either summon an NPC or another player as well. That is the requirements. So say you have at least 1 actual player plus NPC, you will be invaded. Or if you have 2 cooperators with you summoned, you will be invaded. So those are the requirements. Another thing to take note of whenever you invade as a co-invader is there is no friendly fire on either side. So the cooperators don't have friendly fire, of course, and you as the reds don't have any friendly fire either. So it's kind of like, I would say, Demon Souls, remake in a way in that regard. If you have 2 reds in your world, if you have a summoned red, and if you have a invader, or if you have just 2 invaders come in, you cannot hurt yourself. There is no friendly fire. Also, if one of you go down, you have a set time period, just like the cooperators, to pick your co-invader back up. So, one thing to take note of is watch your co-invader's HP bar in the left side of the corner. Watch it. If it's blinking red, you have to find him. And the best way to do so is to look on your mini-map. I believe your co-invader pops up on your mini-map, as well as the cooperators. So you made it this far in the video. Congratulations, you are awesome. That means that you want to hear a little bit more about Wolong's invasions, and that also means that you want to hear my thoughts and opinions on Wolong's invasions. Now, like I stated earlier in the video, my opinion is probably going to be the unpopular opinion. And I'm just going to flat out say it right now. Wolong Dynasty invasions are more satisfying and enjoyable than Elden Ring's current state of their invasions. Yes, I know, it is what it is. Some people may not like that statement that I just said. However, let me explain why I feel like this. I have this opinion about Wolong's invasions versus Elden Ring's invasions. And the best analogy that I can use is actually an analogy that a buddy of mine used the other night that goes by the name of Tizik TNT. He's an old-time Soulsborne veteran invader that's been invading pretty much just as long as I have, and he pretty much summarized it like this. On the older Soulsborne games, you felt like a menace, you felt like a terror, you felt like the predator, right? Hunting prey. That's what you felt like. Now, whenever Elden Ring came out, I tried to grit my teeth and bear it, and I tried to just pray and hope for the best, with the game, and I still do hope for the best for Elden Ring. But the analogy that my buddy used was this. Whenever you invade in Elden Ring, you don't feel like the predator, you don't feel like a terror or a threat or anything like that. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You actually feel like a jackrabbit running 200 miles an hour, trying not to get hit by the almost infinite projectile spam that has little to no cooldown on practically anything and everything in the game, and you're just pretty much being chased the entire time. That's it. You are the prey, right? Elden Ring, you are the prey. The other older Soulsborne games, you felt like a predator. That is the comparison. That is the analogy, right? Now, some of you might be like, well, gods, you just need to get good and blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's fine, but I could also say the same thing back to anybody who tries to say those, I guess, ignorant comments on this video. If they're not feeling very positive about Wolong's invasion system too. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Wolong Fallen Dynasty's invasions do have some issues, right? The biggest one that I can see, and actually I did not, encounter this myself on any invasions. My buddy actually encountered this. So the whole engagement went like this. The host was chilling up on a ledge that had one of the battle flags there. And as a host, even if you get invaded, you can still interact with the battle flag. Now, here's the problem. If say you have NPCs with you, right? And you get invaded, and your NPCs go down, you could rest at the battle flag and they will teleport right behind you with full HP. That's the issue. And also, none of the NPCs that they have killed in the area respawn. None of them. So I don't know if that's how it was meant to be, or if that's how the mechanic was supposed to be implemented. I'm not 100% sure. However, I do feel like that is an issue with the invasions. Another issue is, like I stated before, about the lag, the latency, the netcode. I'm not 100% sure if it's the netcode, if it's the servers. I don't know. Wolong's lag and latency that you can experience can be extremely horrible at times, but also very comical too in that regard. However, I think even with the small shortcomings that Wolong has with its invasion systems currently, I will still choose Wolong over Elden Ring's invasions as it stands right now with patch 1.09 on Elden Ring. Also, another thing I would like to mention is that Wolong Fallen Dynasty, as far as I'm aware, has a season pass. So I believe that they're going to at least make one DLC for Wolong, which I'm definitely looking forward to, and I cannot wait to make content on it and to actually play through the DLC. But that being said, I'm actually enjoying Wolong a lot. I've been invading at level 95. I beat the main game. I have not started my farm for 5-star gear on the new game missions, or whatever you want to call them. I don't even know what they're called. Rise of a Dragon, or I don't know. They're called something weird. But yeah, they're pretty much side quests to do after you beat the main game to get better equipment and to really pretty much optimize your builds and setups. So, that being said, Wolong Fallen Dynasty's invasions are freaking awesome. I love them. I do plan on making quite a bit of content for Wolong, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. But that's it for me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good shit, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Peace!